Good evening, viewers, and welcome to tonight's regional news. We begin with news from Brazil. Hundreds of Brazilian business leaders and economists blasted President Jair Bolsonaro's handling of the coronavirus crisis on Monday, March 22, and called for a new policy approach as the country grapples with spiking COVID-19 deaths and overwhelmed hospitals. The letter, published in newspapers and signed by former central bank chiefs and some of Brazil's richest bankers, underscored a growing revolt by business leaders against the far-right president whom many had backed for his 2018 election. Without naming Bolsonaro, they upbraided, I quote, the country's highest political leadership, end of quote, for ignoring science, encouraging crowds, hyping unproven treatments, and, I quote, flirting with anti-vaccine movement, end of quote. He said he was still unconvinced by arguments in favor of COVID-19 restrictions, saying they only serve to kill jobs and further impoverish the poor. He added that Brazil's focus should be on destroying the virus and not attacking his government. A surge of infections has made Brazil the latest epicenter of the coronavirus pandemic, killing more than 15,000 people last week and pushing hospitals across the country to the limit. The message from such prominent economists and bankers cut at Bolsonaro's core political argument that he has defended jobs by opposing lockdowns, which the letter called a false choice between saving lives and ensuring support for the vulnerable. We now turn our attention to St. Kitts and Nevis. Honorable Premier Mark Bradley, Minister of Foreign Affairs for St. Kitts and Nevis, has made intervention to its ally, the United States of America, for the provision of COVID-19 vaccines for the Federation and the rest of the Caribbean region. Honorable Bradley, through recent correspondence to U.S. Ambassador to the Eastern Caribbean, the OECS, and Barbados, Linda Taglialalita, implored the U.S. government to make vaccines available to the small island developing states with some urgency. The Premier made the disclosure during his presentation at a virtual forum hosted by the Organization of American States, OAS, on legal challenges faced by the Caribbean in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, held March 19, 2021. The foreign minister noted that St. Kitts and Nevis and the wider Caribbean region, including Latin America, have been experiencing some challenges accessing COVID-19 vaccines. He urged the OAS General Secretary for assistance in this regard. The OAS Secretary General said he too joins the call for equal access to and equitable distribution of COVID-19 vaccines. In Venezuela, the 16,523 Venezuelans who received an amnesty from the government have only the rest of this week to apply to re-register for a new card. The 3-week period to submit documents to the Ministry of National Security ends on Friday. On Monday, many Venezuelans arrived at the Immigration Division building on Henry Street, Port of Spain, to deposit their envelopes. Several organizations are helping Venezuelans organize their documents. The UN Human Rights Commission is sending emails inviting refugees to re-register. Its statement says the UN Human Rights Commission would like to encourage persons who completed the first government registration in 2019 and are in possession of their government registration card or registration receipt to complete the re-registration process. This is important to maintain your legal stay in Trinidad and Tobago and to allow you to work legally to support yourself and your families. And finally, results from a United States trial of AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine may have included, and I quote, outdated information, end of quote, and that could mean the company provided an incomplete view of efficacy data, American federal health officials said early Tuesday. AstraZeneca said in a statement that the data it released Monday included cases up to February 17, as the study rules specified, and that it was continuing to analyze cases that have occurred since then. The company said that a preliminary analysis of data that has continued to roll in was consistent with what it had already reported. It promised an update within 48 hours. AstraZeneca reported Monday that its COVID-19 vaccine provided strong protection among adults of all ages in a long-anticipated U.S. study, a finding that some experts hoped would help rebuild public confidence in the shot around the world and move it a step closer to clearance in America. In the study of more than 30,000 people, the company reported that the vaccine was found to be 79% effective at preventing symptomatic cases of COVID-19, including in older adults. There were no severe illnesses or hospitalizations among vaccinated volunteers, compared with 5 such cases in participants who received dummy shots, a small number, but consistent with findings from Britain and other countries that the vaccine protects against the worst of the disease. And that concludes your regional news. Thank you for joining.